It's now late in the afternoon. At sea level, the sun has already set. At 33,000 feet, there's still some daylight left. The little crop duster, with Jay Prochnow on board, the lost aeroplane, is now flying back on the reciprocal course that it traversed earlier. This at the urgings of Gordon Betts, who is flying a DC-10 jumbo jet in the opposite direction. They're on opposite courses, one flying from the northeast to the southwest, one flying from the southwest to the northeast. The little plane is down at 6,000 feet. The big aircraft is at 33,000 feet. In the little crop duster, it's total darkness. In the big aeroplane, they're looking down and they're thinking, we won't be able to see him. We won't be able to see him. But, says Arthur Dovey, he'll be able to see us if he looks up, providing he can see something. We need a contrail. That's what we need. Have we got a contrail? Gordon Betts says, well, swing the aircraft and see it. Have a look behind us, see if we've got a contrail. Sure enough, they swing the aircraft to port, look out one of the side windows. No contrail. That's when the flight engineer, a fellow called Brooksy Brooks, Gordon, his name was too, Gordon Brooksy Brooks pipes up to the pilot. He says, Chief, he says, well, look, mate, we've got tons of fuel. Why don't we dump some fuel? Once we dump some fuel, it'll make a contrail. And of course, this was what would happen, because if they let any fuel go, it was 42 degrees below zero outside, minus 42 degrees Celsius. The moment that fuel hit the upper atmosphere, it would turn into crystals of ice. The sun would reflect through it and it would make a contrail. So this is what they decided to do. They thought to themselves, if we can make a contrail, we know he's pretty close now because his signals are booming in. We can't be more than 100, maybe 50 miles away from us. He's booming in, he's close. He'll be to see a contrail. So that's when they decided to drop some of their fuel. Now, they couldn't just waste fuel. They had to time it. So they counted down and they decided to release their fuel for 2 minutes. As the countdown went down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they switched on the escape valves, and of course the fuel streamed out, twin streams of fuel behind the aircraft, right across the sky, looking pink. All right, Jay, you should be able to see that, mate. Look up, look up. We can't be very far away. Look up in the sky towards us and you'll see us. And Jay Prochnow, in his little crop duster aircraft, looks up in the sky, looking, but he can't see anything. All he can see up there is sky with stars beyond. The stars are just starting to poke as it's getting dark even up there. Can't see it. Can't see it. Gee, they're thinking in the big plane, this is something wrong here. He must be able to see us. He couldn't be far away. He must be able to see us. All right, we'll have another go. So then they release more fuel for another 2 minutes. Each time they released fuel, they dropped 5 tons of fuel. So they'd already released 10 tons of fuel. They couldn't keep doing this. They said, look, you must be able to see us. No, I can't see it. And what has happened is this. In the little crop duster, which was designed for aerial crop dusting work, it had the side windows and the back shaded in. All he could see is out the front and a few little side windows, but he couldn't see above. And he never thought of what had actually happened. The planes had passed each other. They'd passed each other. The big plane was now to the southwest, the little plane to the northeast. And of course, as he flew further away and they flew further away, his signals got weaker and weaker. And eventually they died out. That's when they thought in the big plane, well, that's it. We did our best. He's had it. Poor fella. He's going to ditch. He won't survive. And then they heard a voice. Air New Zealand 103 at Auckland Air Radio. This is Cessna 30771. I can see lights below me. I can see lights below me. I'm going down to have a look. They thought, wow. Then the voice of Jay came back again. I can see lights. It looks like it looks like two. There's two lots of, no, it's a tugboat. It's a tugboat towing, looks like an oil rig. And that's what he'd seen. He'd seen a tug towing an oil rig. He said, I'm going to go down. And of course, as he descended and got near the tug, they started a signal with a signal light. Don't land, don't land. Sea's too rough to lower a boat. This came back to him. And then in the big plane, Gordon Bett said, an oil rig. All right, well, let's get on to Auckland and find out where that oil rig is. Once we know where that is, we'll know where he is. So they call Auckland Air Radio. Auckland Air Radio, blah, 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 and they ask the position of the oil rig. Of course, the reply comes back, well, we've now got to get in touch with the Maritime Services Board to find out where he is. So there's a delay. And eventually the signal comes back and they get a latitude and longitude position. Ah, now we can get down there, they said. So, all right, Arthur, take it down to that latitude and longitude. So they just punch a few things into their computer. The aircraft swings around and flies down to that particular position, the latitude and longitude of where the tugboat and the oil rig are. But when they get there, there's no tugboat. There's no oil rig. Where is it? Where is it? Listen, mate, how old was that message? How old was that position report? 12 hours? 12 hours? Where's he going? Where's the tug going? Going to Singapore. Singapore, right. Okay, that's up to the northwest. Okay. All right, Arthur, take her up to the northwest. And before you know it, they were in touch with Jay Prochnow loud and clear again on VHF. And that's when things began to really get dramatic. Because at that time, in the little aeroplane, suddenly he ran out of fuel. I've run out of fuel. The engine stopped. The engine stopped. No, it hasn't, Jay. No, it hasn't. Didn't I tell you to switch off all the ports, and only use one until you've drained it for you? Now switch on another one. Switch on another one. But I've done that. Switch them all on. Now waggle the aeroplane around a bit. And of course the aeroplane burst to life. There was still some more fuel in the tank. So, right, things were getting pretty desperate now. He said, all right, now, we think we're pretty close to you now. You should be at 6,000. We're going to come down to 8,000 feet. We're on descent now to 8,000. You should be able to see us pretty soon. Now, once again, as I said, if you'd have been in that aeroplane as one of the passengers, you'd have heard something like this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We are now in close proximity to the little aircraft we've been searching for. Now, as you can see, it's dark outside and it's going to be difficult to find. Now, I realise that on this aircraft there are lots of children. And children have good eyesight. Now I'd like you to put all the kids along those windows, looking out the windows, looking down. And if a boy or a girl can see that little aeroplane, well, they'll get a chocolate bar, he said. And of course laughter went through the passengers. But the children were looking down. But the chances of seeing that little plane were very remote indeed. All right, Jay, now listen, mate. We're coming down to 8,000 feet now. We're on descent. But in the little plane, Jay Prochnow, now almost asleep, very tired, very worried, but so tired, the adrenaline had burnt out, he was nearly asleep. He'd let the aircraft drift a bit, and it had gradually risen so that it was now at about over 7,000 feet, not 6,000 as he said. In the big plane, they were on descent. In the big plane, they're on descent. In the little plane, Jay is looking up. His eyes are tired. He's got the dark glasses off now, of course. It's night time. And all he can see above him is stars, lots and lots of stars. And then suddenly, mysteriously, the stars began to blacken out. And as he looked up, he saw in front of me, all right, the wheels coming down on the big aircraft. It put the wheels down to slow up the speed. Down came the wheels right over the top of him. He looked up. Look, you're right over the top of me. You're right over the top of me. Goodness gracious. All right, Jay, we've got you now, mate. Keep clear of the wash. Get off to one side. And of course, as the big aircraft roared by, the little plane had buffeted and swung this way and that in the turbulence. But now they knew where he was. And that's when another voice cut in for the first time. Not a ground station, another aircraft. Air New Zealand 103, Cessna 30771. This is Air Force Rescue 1 out of Whenuapai. We have you both on radar. We can see the little chick tucked in under your port wing. So now this Orion from Whenuapai in New Zealand was on the scene. Now if the little aircraft crashed, at least they could drop life-saving gear to him. But that didn't happen anyway, because in the big plane they said, all right, Jay, now look, our landing speed is faster than your cruising speed, so we're going to leave you behind even though we've got our wheels down. So just follow us in on this course, and you will be in Norfolk Island before you know it. Now, we suggest you call Norfolk for landing instructions. And at that time, Jay Prochnow changed frequency and started to call on 122.1 Norfolk Island. Norfolk, this is Cessna 30771 on 122.1. Do you read over? This is Norfolk Island. Wind is 320 degrees, 15 to 20 knots. Heavy driving rain. QNH for landing is 1002. You're cleared for a straight-in approach. And of course, that's when he ran out of fuel again. But he waggled the plane around again, and the next moment, on the tarmac at Norfolk Island, running along the runway, got to the end of the runway, and the engine stopped. Out of fuel. The 17 hours of fuel that he had in the tank had run out. He had more than 17 hours. He'd been in the air for nearly 20 hours. And finally the fuel had given out. But he was on the ground. The bird, the lonely bird, had found a place to land. In the big aircraft, the big DC-10 came over the top, waggled its wings, and the message went like this. Right you are, Jay. Merry Christmas, son. Keep in touch. And the big aircraft headed off for Auckland, New Zealand, to land a little bit later than its normal expected time of arrival. And on the little plain, as I said, the lonely bird had found a place to land. J. Prochnow and Captain Gordon Vett remain friends for the rest of their lives. How do I know this? Because this is a true story, told to me himself in a letter, in writing, by Captain Gordon Vett. Thank you.